Almost every war has one unfortunate consequence. The victors draw the lines, and they often do so with little regard for population needs or reparations issues. We all remember how difficult the conditions for Germany's defeat in World War I were, but many forget the other tensions created by the Treaty of Versailles, especially in artificial Yugoslavia. This country became the center of the most destructive European war since the Second World War, with 200,000 dead, an insane crisis, and the use of depleted uranium. All this is just the tip of the iceberg, and in the next couple of minutes I will go into more detail. We will first focus on the final phase of the First World War, which was known to be the killer of empires. As part of this topic, we are interested in Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. First and foremost, let's delve into the conclusion of World War I, which, as we know, proved to be the killer of empires. In the context of our topic, we are interested in Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. 1. Prior to the 20th century, the Austro-Hungarian Empire controlled the South Slavic lands. 2. The Ottoman Empire, for centuries, governed the Balkans and assimilated the population. The territories in this region were considered zones of special interest, but the influence of the Ottoman Empire on the Balkans began to wane long before World War I. Greece gained independence as early as 1829, while Serbia did so in 1878. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913 further weakened the Turkish territories in Europe. The disintegration of Austria-Hungary following World War I drastically reshaped the political map to the point of being unrecognizable. Particularly benefiting from this situation, Serbia emerged as a victorious kingdom in the war, aligning itself with the Allies and showcasing remarkable strength. As early as 1915, Serbia declared its goal of uniting the South Slavic lands. While this endeavor looked good on paper, it's important not to forget the complexities of the Balkan Peninsula, a unique blend of peoples and interests spanning millennia. Ottoman Turks, Croats, Slovenes all had their own aspirations, while Serbs and Albanians pursued their own agendas. After the creation of Yugoslavia, then known as the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, an attempt was made to mold all these nations together with varying degrees of success. However, centuries of oppression endured by the Turkish and Albanian populations on the territories, coupled with power struggles between dominant Croats and Serbs, created a difficult environment. Difficult times befell the Slavic Muslims, Montenegrins, and other minorities. The desire to create a unified nation was present, but the chosen methods were not entirely sound. In 1929, the country officially adopted the name Yugoslavia, and during World War II, it endured a harrowing experience. All the national tensions that had been brewing for years erupted like festering abscesses. Initially unable to resist, Yugoslavia entered into a tripartite pact, which caused unrest among the people and led to a military coup. The new government tried to maintain neutrality, but Hitler quickly made it clear that Yugoslavia was an unreliable ally. War officially broke out on March 27, 1941, with Germany singling out Serbia, capitalizing on its internal national issues. This prompted Croatian nationalists to immediately pledge their support to Hitler, while many in Yugoslavia did not even show up for conscription, as propaganda portrayed Germany as solely fighting against Serbia, with representatives of other nations not needing to sacrifice themselves for England's interests. As a result, by April 1941, Yugoslavia ceased to exist. Germany, Italy, and Bulgaria claimed territories for themselves, with Croatia de facto gaining independence. However, even on paper, these independent countries remained occupied until the end of the war. The scale of the civil war that erupted between Serbs and Croats is alarming. Official concentration camps existed in Croatia, and various estimates suggest that during World War II, between 500,000 and 1 million Serbs were exterminated. There are even urban legends that claim Croatia received calls from Germany, urging them to stop the excessive brutality. Concurrently, the former Yugoslav territory witnessed the most powerful partisan movement after the USSR. To suppress it, Germany and its allies had to deploy more troops than in France. Following World War II, Yugoslavia was rebuilt, with the partisan leaders assuming leadership. The partisan movement boasted multi-ethnicity. The resurrected country was transformed into a federation, and significant efforts were made to balance the interests of various groups. However, over time, Yugoslavia had a falling out with the USSR, despite its socialist course. Nevertheless, Yugoslavia remained a prominent advocate of the non-aligned movement, which included countries that declared their commitment to independence after World War II, alongside Egypt and India. National protests and movements for independence also emerged during this time. For instance, the Croatian Spring erupted in 1971, with participants demanding a shift in support from weaker regions like Kosovo to stronger ones like Croatia. However, during the era of Josip Broz Tito's leadership, Yugoslavia managed to maintain a certain level of economic development compared to other countries in the socialist bloc. Yugoslavia only lagged behind the GDR in terms of economic development. However, in 1980, after the death of Tito, as is often the case, the multi-ethnic federation began to disintegrate. Initially, the process was not particularly rapid, as Tito's testament called for the country to be governed by a collective presidency, where representatives from various federations would take turns as chairpersons. This system resembled the current European Union, but economically more developed Croatia and Slovenia were dissatisfied with their status, while Kosovo experienced successive uprisings for independence. Things took a turn for the worse when Slobodan Milosevic came to power in Serbia in 1989. Together with his supporters, he enacted a constitution that curtailed the rights of autonomous republics. The collapse of the USSR had its echo in Yugoslavia as well. On June 25, 1991, Croatia and Slovenia simultaneously declared their independence. This marked the beginning of another civil war, exacerbated by the same factors as a century ago. In Croatia, 500,000 Serbs resided, while Serbia had a significant Croatian population. Kosovo, in turn, gradually sought to assert itself, and essentially, it became a situation where everyone was fighting against everyone else. Slovenia had relatively better luck in this situation. Slovenes constituted a staggering 95% of the population there, and they had a decent army. The terrain quickly proved to the Serbian army who was in charge, and Slovenia managed to escape with just a scare. However, in Croatia, a true hell unfolded. Serbs deserted from the Croatian army, while Croats deserted from the Serbian army. The inhabitants on both sides were demanding autonomy and expressing a desire to join the other state. Despite having superior technology, Serbia lost the war due to tactical issues. The events then spilled over to Bosnia and Herzegovina, where the ethnic situation was even worse. Muslims made up 44% of the population, Croats 24%, and Serbs 33%. In 1992, Croats and Muslims voted for independence from Yugoslavia. By this time, NATO also joined in and began to impose sanctions on Serbia for any reason, formally justifying this with a refugee crisis. But in fact, the West did not like communist rule in Serbia, and they rejoiced at the collapse of the last stronghold of the Red World. The independence of Bosnia and Herzegovina was recognized almost instantly, and 14,000 UN peacekeepers were sent to the country, who during the war became known for their helplessness and jokes about their uselessness. The situation escalated as NATO provided more and more support to the supporters of independence, while Serbia was more and more actively extinguished by sanctions. The conflict became tripartite, and not only the Serbs fought with the Croats, but also the Croats with the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Another member of the front was the Serbian Krajina, the unrecognized Republic of the Serbs, located on the territory of Croatia. The overall situation became so confusing that it was no longer possible to determine who was right and who was wrong. Perhaps the only path to victory seemed to be gaining NATO's support, and in 1994, the alliance fully engaged in the war by initiating airstrikes in the region. Their actions were directed against the Serbs, while the civil war continued and was marked by massive ethnic cleansing. Serbs, after capturing Srebrenica, committed a massacre of the Muslim population, and the Croats conducted their own cleansing of Serbs in the Serbian Krajina. Muslims also did not lag behind and committed war crimes. Some of these crimes are still partially under investigation. As a result, the Dayton Accords established an independent but divided state of Bosnia and Herzegovina, consisting of Croatian, Muslim, and Serbian entities. The Serbian Krajina was gradually defeated and eventually incorporated into Croatia. The war claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of civilians by 1995 and resulted in an immense refugee crisis, with the number of displaced people reaching millions. It is widely believed that Slobodan Milosevic bears significant responsibility for the tragic scale of the Yugoslav conflict. On one hand, he fueled Serbian nationalism, but on the other hand, he abandoned the Croatian and Bosnian Serbs at a crucial moment. However, it is worth mentioning that all the blame was placed on the Serbs, while war crimes and ethnic cleansing against them were not prominently highlighted by the West. In the end, Serbia and Montenegro remained as the remaining entities within Yugoslavia. The main issue at hand was Kosovo, a territory that had been demanding autonomy for decades. The situation in Kosovo remained volatile, with Kosovar Albanians demanding independence and Serbian authorities seeking to retain control over the region. On February 28, 1998, the Kosovo Liberation Army declared armed struggle for independence, prompting Yugoslavia to launch attacks on the rebel-held territories, which led to the predictable reaction. In the fall of the same year, NATO developed an operation to compel Serbia to comply. Using the cessation of hostilities as a formal pretext, they presented practically unattainable demands. On March 24, 1999, the NATO intervention against Yugoslavia commenced. During the 78-day campaign, there were 35,000 sorties conducted, resulting in the release of 23,000 bombs and missiles. Officially, the targets were military infrastructure, but in reality, 57% of oil depots, 5 power nodes, and major industrial facilities were destroyed. The bombings also hit entire residential areas, such as the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. However, the most devastating impact was on the hemp factory bombings. The Serbian Minister of Health claimed that not even Hitler had bombed them, as the NATO airstrikes resulted in the poisoning of the Danube River, numerous lakes, and even the Adriatic Sea. Disputes continue regarding the use of cluster bombs and depleted uranium bombs. The US maintains that there are no harmful effects from such bombs, while the European Union and Serbia argue about the radioactive contamination of the affected areas and the outbreak of cancer-related diseases. The UN Special Representative for Human Rights in the former Yugoslavia, Jiri Dienstbier, stated that the NATO Balkan operation led to more civilian casualties than the Kosovo conflict itself, which the operation was allegedly launched to resolve. NATO's operation did not have a mandate from the UN, but that does not hinder the alliance from referring to the bombings as legitimate. As for Yugoslavia, Kosovo obtained partial independence, while the country itself existed until 2003 and later renamed as Serbia and Montenegro. Finally, in 2006, Montenegro also gained independence, effectively erasing Yugoslavia from the map in one form or another.